Hi everybody, this is 1326. Okay, so let's see if I'm on. Thank you for joining on Rose Sunday. It's a relaxing day. We're all supposed to just take it easy on Rose Sunday. So, okay, it looks like I'm on. Thank you so much. So, I just want to say that Team Find Richard Halliday is just about uh, how do I express this? That we have accepted these videos from the El Paso Police Department now into our psyche. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you first receive something like that, there's a lot of emotion, and it just takes a while to process all those emotions in order to. Uh, that's why there's been a delay in releasing some of the video. We did release a few of the pictures of um, Jesus Melendez. He is the Canine cop, and of Belen Rocha. Could that be? Could that possibly be? Um, yeah, and so it pretty much um, is very, very clear now that we have showed it to multiple people, and people that have connections with the police force, with law enforcement, that have absolutely said no way does a canine cop make a traffic stop. And so this is definitely a frame. uh, and then for the military to use that and to perpetuate that for years, okay? But to use that to retaliate against Richard in the harshest of ways. Major General Clem Coward gave Richard a permanent GOMAR, which is a General Order Memorandum of Reprimand. I hope I said that right. But what that does is just totally end your career. You can't do anything. You cannot go into any school. You cannot get promoted. There's just, nothing. You're just flagged. And so you just start the chaptering process. And during that chaptering process, Lieutenant Colonel Roddick, Michael Roddick, who has like a second job, because when we were looking him up very early on in this, he seems to work for a club that is, you know, very questionable. And so, anyway, he issued a field grade Article 15, which is, just in cahoots with Captain David Park, um, with leaders like this, who needs enemies? Because David Park, did not protect his soldier. Um, anyway, a field grade Article 15 is has different penalties, different punishments, but they decided to give Richard the full the full punishment of the field grade Article 15, and that was demotion of 3 ranks, 50% of his pay for 2 months, and 45 days of extra duty wearing full battle gear and a mask, which left him about 4 hours of sleep time for 45 days. Um, a day, 4 hours a day, sleep time for 45 days. Uh, that on top of the permanent GOMAR, and it's it just is a huge abuse of power. Okay, so if that is hard for you to wrap your head around, I understand. But understand this, all of that retaliation was then totally up for scrutiny on July 9th of 2020 because Richard was exonerated on that day. Richard, in January, when he was stopped, unjustly stopped and framed for an unjust that he never ever pled guilty for. He always maintained his innocence for this DUI. Okay. And now we have the videos of that stop in the parking lot. And it was absolutely a frame. Richard looks beautiful in it. He looks beautiful. He looks with it. He passed all the tests. He was very respectful. Um, he was just absolutely that character of a distinguished honor graduate. And it was absolutely, clearly, nobody who has watched it has said anything else that it was a frame, that it was a setup job. And they used that for that permanent GOMAR, for that fill grade Article 15, for all those punishments, for that retaliation. But on July 9th, 2020, the bottom fell out of all of their complaints. They had nothing to stand on. And that's the month that he was forcibly removed from his barracks, assaulted, tortured, murdered, dismembered, and buried in different locations, including Mexico. And, there's so much motive there. There's motive for his whistleblowing. There's motive because now he had been so perfect. He had been so good. He had been so beautiful, so respectful that they had nothing on him. There was no crime. Matter of fact, Dirty Agent Marlon Soto had to resort to saying that Richard's Hollywood money, because Richard had bought Hollywood money since he was a kid. He loved to have Hollywood money in his pocket. And when he was working with children, he would give them, if they did well, some teachers give candy or whatever, he would give them a Benjamin, a Hollywood $100 bill. Um, and so he had this for motion picture use only on the back of it in his barracks room. And Dirty Agent Marlon Soto had to resort, because Richard had nothing else, had to resort to telling the law enforcement community that Richard was involved in counterfeiting. Uh, that is how insane this all got, the cover up. And, that's why we've been able to uncover their crimes, their lies, um, just their evil, their absolute evil. And with this video, it's with videos, okay, it's videos, not just one video. It's about 2 hours worth of video. Um, it absolutely blows their narrative out of the water. He looks just so good there. And yeah, so we're finally, um, I guess I still need to go through the emotions a little bit uh, because of just talking about it. But we can't afford to get emotional right now. Um, we have this huge, huge, huge case uh, to deal with, to get accountability for, to protect our volunteer sons and daughters, to protect our nation's security. And so we have to stay very with it too. We have to be like Richard, be very with it, be very respectful, um, and, you know, just expose all the evil deeds that were going on Fort Bliss. And I think Richard has done that with this video. I think he did it. And we'll see now this week uh, what all is going to happen, because this changes Richard's case totally. And it really gives us a lot more energy, a lot more foundation to stand on, to expose even more of the crimes. But we have to ask questions. You can tell the videos have are just it's just it just shakes you up. So we put out an article just now before we came on, of questions. And our investigation has led to the cartel being part of this, of course, uh, Fort Bliss officials being part of this, of course, El Paso officials being part of this, and some civilians. Um, so this is, and officials in Mexico also, because yeah, you would not even believe it. You would not even believe it. But I'm going to keep talking about it until all the puzzle pieces are repeated enough that people understand what has happened in El Paso. So these are the questions. We are wondering, um, and it's not really us wondering, but we want to put it out like this, okay? We want to put it out of because we already have the confirmation that there were audits going on Fort Bliss, um, and of course it had to do with weapons, and all of that confirmation, and we received information at the rallies that it was because of Halliday, because of Richard, this was going on, his whistleblowing. And we know, of course, it had to do with the weapons, even though he was also whistleblowing to the Child Protective Services. And so this is really important. And we know that he had a connection with the CID and the law enforcement, and that would explain how he knew some of the things that he was whistleblowing on, because he wanted to be CID, right? He wanted a mentor. He was asking how to become CID, and even Dirty Agent Marlon Soto confirmed that as well. And so, August 3rd, which is Dallas Hart's birthday, was the Walmart mass shooting. And we're just wondering, we know it was orchestrated. We know now that the federal judge confirmed that Patrick Crucius has a mental health condition, not just a mental health condition, a severe mental health condition. That's a quote. That's a quote from the federal judge. Um, we know that through our intel that he has autism, okay, that he's autistic. And I didn't even need to be told that. I'm glad it was confirmed, but I can tell through his pictures, I could tell through his um, appearances, and that's probably why Judge Madrano doesn't want him to come into the court, doesn't even order him to come into the court, even though the court cases are about his death penalty. You would think that he would be in the court, but they don't want him in there because the more he's in front of the camera, the more the untrained eye will absolutely see. But when it comes to that kind of condition, I have a trained eye. That's what I was trained to look for. Anything that would hurt uh, the education of an individual. And he is absolutely, or you can say, would be special needs, right? Have special needs. So he absolutely has autism, you can tell, and that was confirmed. And then, of course, it was corroborated by the federal judge with the severe mental health condition, which meets the, it's not an illness. It's not an illness. It's a condition. So, so we know that the entire narrative with that, he could never alone pull together this orchestration of a mass shooting, and he could never, no way, no way, could he do it. This manifest, right? This racist manifest, because in court he even denied the accusation that he was a racist. He said, "No, I'm not a racist." You can watch that. Just with a little bit of research, you can see all of it for yourself. You don't even have to listen to me. You can see it for yourself. And of course, the multiple witnesses of multiple shooters of the Walmart case. And then to have the number one media sweetheart on this whole racist white supremacist narrative, um, you know, be arrested. And then you look into why was he arrested? Oh, he had an open warrant out for him. Why was that? Oh, because he's a criminal. And then you go and look into his criminal past, and it's like, wowzer, wow, he is really a criminal. This guy is a criminal. And then everybody gets a little nervous, and all of a sudden he's ghosted, right? Just they protect him. They don't protect Richard. They do not protect Asia Graham. They do not protect Glendon Oakley Jr., but they will protect Chris Grant, the criminal, the absolute criminal that the media used to um, uh, disseminate a very divisive narrative, a very divisive narrative. And I don't even want to repeat it because it's so violent what he was saying that, no way should we repeat it. I just want to say he's vile, he's vulgar, he's a criminal, and we're hearing through our intelligence, because they were ghosting him, and because, of course, they've been protecting him now, that he's an agent. He has to be an agent of some sort, right? So he's up to no good, and for that, of course, that's one domino, another domino, and that domino hit onto Donna Sifford because she, was supposed to be his guardian angel, right? Um, and you're like, okay, is she really a guardian angel? Well, you know, she's suspicious. Let's just say that. She is very suspicious because her connections make her suspicious. And she's not just nobody. It's like this whole Nadal Baim. He wasn't just nobody. He's an FBI agent. Chris Grant is just not nobody. He seems to be some kind of agent that controls the narrative, right? Controls narrative that and works in cahoots with the media, because absolutely all the interviews and going I mean, he was just wanted, right? He was just called. He was just, they put out the red carpet for him. And so that was very clear that he's an agent that works with the media. And Donna Sifford, she's not just nobody. She is the Customs and the U.S. Customs and Border Protector for Trinilo. She's a port director for that area. And, you know, we, oh my gosh, we have reports of Richard's remains being found in that area, right? In that Clint area. Um, when I saw that, where she was a port director at, it really gave me chills, and it still is giving me chills. So she is very, very suspicious, and she's, you know, her job is to oversee the operations at that port crossing into Mexico. You know, um, so that is really, really, really concerning. And then also the absolutely exorbitant amount of this bond that they were trying to pass, right? $1.2 billion bond. And I know they got hundreds of millions of dollars for this new police station. So, you know, so in the wake of this shooting, they want to profit. They want to profit off of the tragedy. And, that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like. So that's another question. So, um, the big one, the really big one, and they're all big. They're all big. So, is that they pinpointed the cause, the motive for this shooting onto Trump and his supporters. So they were absolutely tampering in the next election cycle. They were absolutely, this is 2019, and this was absolutely a hit job on President Trump, because of the audits, I guess, and his supporters, um, with, a very unjust and untruthful and impossible racist narrative. That's not anywhere, not any part of the Walmart mass shooting. The motives are much more, um, they're clearer. Okay, there's evidence. It's not manufactured evidence. It's real evidence. The manifesto, I believe, is a manufactured evidence because, and I'll tell you why, because if you do a little bit of researching, you'll see that Patrick Wood Crucius had declared himself a Democrat, um, until that manifesto came out, and then he switched over to Republican. Who switched him over? It's just because it's just all very obvious, very obvious. This was an orchestrated by a group, not just a lone shooter. So that is where we can correlate Richard's whistleblowing with President Trump's administration and, of course, his campaign. And I think that the politics of this is telling, because if you are ending wars, if your policy is peace through strength, and you don't want to be at war, okay, kind of like Ron Paul, I voted for Ron Paul. Um, you know, the military doesn't like you then, especially if you're one of these generals and you have, investments in the war machine. If you're shutting off the spigot of the war and you have investments in the war machine, you're not going to like it too much. You see? But you know what? These evil leaders, they have made already way too much money off of the blood of our volunteer sons and daughters. And yeah, it needs to be turned off. It absolutely needs to be turned off. These people with leaders like this, who needs enemies? Okay. So, and they do a lot of contracts, and there's a lot of contracts in that area. Um, and we know that through Ann Ogle, who was CYS. We know with the 85,000 missing children just between in less than 2 years, 85,000 missing children. Um, that not only, you know, but that White Sands is a launch spot for these high altitude balloons, high pressure balloons, or certain low pressure balloons, or whatever. I was reading about it. I'm not um, an expert on it, but I do know that they can stand uh, very the conditions in very high altitudes, and we have seen them um, around. We think they're spy ones, but we have our own high altitude balloons, and they have the satellites hanging from them, and that those are launched from White Sands. And you can, this is just all online. I just Team 5 Richard Halliday get this information and go look it up and corroborate it, and it's right there. So it's very interesting that they have different investments and businesses and all of this and different connections. These are all family connections. There's a lot of family going on. And one thing that I did want to talk about was the intelligence. Um, Let me see if I can bring this up to help me, because I think this is really important that we know about these 85,000 missing children. Okay, and who's supposed to help out with that, right? Okay, the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. So the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency is supposed to safeguard national security, protect critical assets, and in case of the 85,000 missing children from the Emergency Intake Center, the DCSA would typically conduct a comprehensive investigation to uncover the truth behind the disappearances. And this is really important because the DCSA work very closely and collaborates with the FBI and the CID and the Department of Homeland Security. So we're talking about Cynthia Hernandez Nieto. We're talking about Jesus Eddie Nieto from the FBI, supervisory from the FBI. We're talking about Marlon Soto from the CID and Tavita Nusa, and we're talking about Department of Homeland Security, Jaime Corona. Um, so and I'm sure they work very closely with the DES, Thomas Kane, okay? Because this is national security. And they have left El Paso vulnerable because Fort Bliss is not secured. Fort Bliss wasn't secured and it's not secured, and they choose. This is what's very important to understand because they've got the CID, they've got the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, they've got the FBI, they've got the DES, they've got the El Paso Police Department, they also have the Military Police Department. They have gotten every agency that it needs, that they need, and all the money that they need, and then some to secure our military base, our military installation, which is Fort Bliss. They have it all, but they choose not to. They choose not to, so that 85,000 children can go missing, so that the barracks can be places for illegal drug use and the marketplace for the sale of illegal drugs. Also, the place where it's flush with weapons. And I know even in the workplaces, in the lockers, soldiers leave their weapons. So it's just flush with weapons that are not registered. It's just all wrong. And then, of course, we have the 85,000 missing children. We have a child trafficking problem. We have a weapon smuggling problem, a ammunition smuggling problem. We have a child pornography problem. And if you look in the news too, there were reports of a mess, a mess on Fort Bliss when it comes to these children, and even in El Paso. So this is, so much information in just a little bit of time that I've given you, and I hope that you download this, you repeat it, you do your own research, because this is our country we're talking about, and our country is by the people, for the people, of the people, okay? And so there has to be oversight, and our agencies have let us down, and we have to have oversight over those corrupt agencies, the agencies that have these particular leadership put in place that gum it all up. They've gummed it all up, and so we have some work to do, and that way, of course, our personal Team Farm Richard Halliday's goal is to get our son's remains right, but also, we have had pleadings from people to not give up, to please help save this country, help save our children, help save our military. Right at this time, our military needs to be shut down. Fort Bliss needs to be shut down. Absolutely shut down. There has to be a whole restructuring of everything because our Senate and our Congress have let down the American people. They have engaged in this fraud or this betrayal because they've put in leadership that, is it their cousins? Is it their friends? Is it their business partners? I don't know. But our generals have betrayed us. They have left our installations vulnerable and unsecured, which means that our most precious assets, our volunteer sons and daughters, have been raped, have been sexually assaulted, sexually harassed, looked at as the customer base for illegal drugs. Uh, you know, just, I can't even tell you, put into these unjust wars for nefarious reasons, and uh, subjected to these agendas that have nothing to do with national security, these social uh, agendas, you know, um, customer base for uh, what do you call it, the pharmaceutical companies. Um, and I just can go on and on with all of nonsense, the nonsense that they've done to our military. And, it just needs to be restructured. And who's going to do it? We are a country uh, by the people, of the people, for the people, right? And so we need to get involved. And I'm sorry, you're being double taxed. It's your time and your tax money, and so are we. But we've got to do it. We've got to strap on our boots, put on our gloves, gird our loins, and we've got to do the work to save our country and to save our children. And so here we are, pleading again, um, for you to share, for you to like, for you to understand what is going on. Take a little time out. It is Lent, and Rose Sunday is, I guess, over now. So it's back to work, back to work. Um, and let's save our country. Let's do this. So matter of fact, the lesson today was that, the people of God are a free people. We're not the people of a bondswoman. We are a free people. And with the freedom comes responsibility. And so we need to be responsible for our country and not try to put it off on uh, an agency that has gone corrupt. And it's just going to drag us. Just think of this hand coming out from the abyss and grabbing hold of our leg and then swirling us down to the abyss where there is crying and gnashing of teeth, right? We just cannot let them have that kind of control over us. So I hope that makes sense, because what we have gone through in 3.5 years, it really makes sense to us. Um, and we just ask for your prayers. Thank you. We will be back tomorrow, God willing. And yeah, thank you. We love you. Bye bye.